Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniela. I'll be hosting the webinar on Employee Management Part 2. Ahead of time, I apologize for any noise that you may hear in the background. We currently moved to a new building, so there is construction going on somewhere around me, but hopefully we can all hear each other, everyone, perfectly. So with that said, everyone, we will start with under employees. We have a very unique feature called a reporting tree. From here, users are able to go in, expand on each employee, and actually see pictures of each employee, their title. As you can see from over here, we have Trinity Peterson as the Chief Executive Officer. So it's going by the title. And if you click on the eye icon, we can go and get more info as to who they are, what their roles are, their teams, any managers, the locations that they are in, their email address, the option to view the calendar, as well as go and see other information such as their email addresses. Mind you, the ones that are highlighted with a green dot are the ones that are the primary. Any phone numbers in the system, any bio to go with this employee, as well as any skill sets. So you can kind of go and view those within the reporting tree. Also, within each employee, we do have it where you can go and send a new message straight to them from here. It's a great way to kind of keep things nice and cohesive. So as you can see, we see everyone that is under Trinity. If we go and expand on one employee, we can see those that are directed underneath them, such as Will Zane. So we can see all these other employees. We can go and click into their information and view their info as well, and so forth. It's a great way to get accustomed to the people within your company. From here, we can also go and see that under employees, we do have expenses. Now, expenses can go for both customers and for employees. As you can see from over here, we do have a search bar that we can go and view by certain types of expenses. So if you didn't want to necessarily see fuel, parking, or supplies, we can go in and actually see just a few. You can see by the status. So we have pending, approved, paid, denied, and canceled as well. And then any dates from and to. From here, you can also save those searches if you know that you'll be going back to them on a constant basis. So as we can see from here, if we go and hit search, we don't have any right now within the system, but we can go and actually add any expenses in, such as, for example, underneath myself, or since I do have full access, I can go and put for another employee as well. So for example, Ivy Daniels, we can go and choose. We can say that she'll put in a fuel expense. And then from here, we can mark whether or not this will be billable. But you do have the options within settings when creating your expense types to choose whether or not these types will be billable or not. So as you can see, fuel automatically came to be billable. From here, we can go and put our request dates. We can do a transaction date and any amount. Now, these fields are necessary. As you can see, you can also add a sales price as well or change that if need be. Now, this expense type is required to have a customer on it. So as we can see, we can put in, for example, UPS and say whether or not this is reimbursable, or we can select a payment account. From here, they can also leave notes and also leave attachments as well. Now, if this is a fuel expense, sometimes you might expect to have a receipt. In this case, this is a receipt that they can then attach to this expense and then send over. Right now, we'll just save and close. So from here, you also do have the option to add multiple expenses at once. And what this will basically give you is the option to choose the employee. You can add a new line item. And as you can see right now, you have about 5 of them. So you can do your request type, the customer or vendor, the amount. You can go and have your request date, transaction date, and any notes. Or if you don't need this many, you can just go and click on the trash can icon to the right. Now, with that said, I do have the expense queue that we can go and visit. I also have it as a bookmark so that I can easily get to it if I need to. And from here, you do have your search filters as well. So by employee, by expense type, expense status, date range, the amount, transaction date range, and the customer and vendor. So from here, as you can see, we have 3 expenses that do need to be approved. And once we do receive an expense, we can set people to get notifications, such as getting one for approval. And I can show you what that will look like over here. So I'll bring that over for you. Okay.
Absolutely.
And as an example, this is a reimbursement request that has been submitted. So as you can see, I have a date, the type, any notes if need be, the amount, and a link to approve. So if you are set to go and approve for any type of expenses, that's the type of email that you would receive. And then from there, you can go into the system, check as many boxes as you need to make sure that this is something that I will approve, and then you can update the status. But before we do that, I can show you just what one of them will look like. So if we go into this expense right over here, we can see that right now we do have an attachment for a fuel expense, and we can then go and view those attachments. So for example, this right here is a receipt that they would then go and attach within their expense. And then from here, we can go and associate with an order. We can create an invoice. We can choose just to cancel this expense straight from the screen, or we can go and view any changes through the audit log. So each one would have its own audit log. And from here, let's see, for example, we can go and take Alice's expense, update the status, say that this is approved or paid, denied, or canceled, and then save and close that. And then if not, you can go and create a check, for example, Ivy Daniels. And then from there, right now we say it cannot be paid because it isn't approved. But once we do have it in an approved status, we are able to then go and create a check from here. So from your queue, you're able to go and see any amounts and the statuses. And if anything, you can always go and deny it if they are missing, for example, any attachments, such as a fuel receipt. From here, the next portion that you can see is under employees, we do have time tracking. Now, just to kind of go through here, in time tracking, we can go and set up through the settings any kind of pay types. Right now, we do have it as normal, but you can have overtime as well. Now, to show you what that will look like, if we go underneath settings, we'll just go and click for pay types. And you can set it up where, as you can see from here, we have normal or overtime. Adding a new pay type is simply as putting in a title. So we can put, for example, let's say, another type of medium pay.
So, speaking of what we are
medium
talking
average.
about, I wanted to find out a little bit more.
You would put in your billing multiplier and your pay multiplier, and then you can choose whether or not this would be a default save, or if not, for right now, we do have normal as the default. And of course, you can go and search for your payment types and do by status. So you can have inactive statuses and also search for them as well. They will not be permanently deleted from the system. And then from here, of course, going back into timesheets, we do have a lot of information from here. As you can see, this is one that will have it on a weekly basis, and we have multiple ways that people can do this. We can go and select a category, such as labor, for example. We can go and select an item. We can select a customer, select an order, and a task. And as you can see from here, the customer will have the location populate. And then there are notes that people can go and put in exactly what they did. And then from here, they can put in any hours, such as for Monday, 2 hours, Tuesday, 2 hours, Wednesday, 3 hours, and so forth. Now, of course, at the end, it'll total up all the hours, but you can go and save and resume for a later time, or you can submit your weekly timesheet from here. Of course, I can also change from over here who the employee is. Of course, since I'm logged in, it is going to myself, but I can go and do so for any other employee. Also for the dates, I can go back and I can go forward. Then from here, if we can go back into employees, we can also see that we have just single time entry submissions. So from here, it's the same thing. We would mark whether this is fillable, choose the employee, the date, the pay type, and the customer, which are required, and then the rest of the information that we can fill out. And hours is also required as well. And then from the side over here, we can get a view of what those hours have been for the certain days, such as Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So if we did make any submissions for timesheets, those would be listed there.
Okay.
So from here, if we can go back real quick to timesheets. Okay. We are able to go and have this be automatically approved, or you can have a set where someone will go through all these timesheets and then approve them. If anything were to be incorrect, you do have the option to then go and edit that information or send it right back to that employee to fix that. Okay. And then from here, underneath timesheets, we have the timesheet list. So anything within here that has been submitted, we can see from whom. We can go and edit. We can go and send a message, or we can just click into the week of, and so forth. And you can also see the status. So when it's when a status is approved, you can choose to see, all right, Will Zane, for example, approved this on May 22nd. But if we wanted to go in and edit this information, for example, we can go in, see any of the time that she's put in, and we know that maybe she had Monday 2 hours of work. So we can go and actually change that for them. And then from there, we can save and resume and so forth. And another option that we do have, of course, is the search filter. So if you wanted to go and search for specific employees, you can do so as well. Okay. So another way that we can do timesheets is through the tasks. Now, I'll briefly take you through what that looks like. Through a task, we do have it where if we were to enter a new one, let's just say billing inquiry and test. Enter this. Now, if this was something that I had to go and report time on in order to put into my timesheet entry, we do currently have it where from a task, you're able to add that time. So if you set your budget for, let's say, 5 hours or so, and you put in more information, you're able to actually add a single time entry from a task, which is pretty neat. Okay, now from here, another portion of employees is your appointments. Now, going underneath employees and appointments will take you to a listing of all the appointments that you currently have within the system. Now, this could be just for anyone as such myself or Brian. And you can see the type of employee, the type of appointment, the status, the start and end dates, whether or not there are certain appointments that are on a recurring basis, and so forth. So if I wanted to click into, for example, morning rundown, I have all this detailed information. First, I can see that this is a scheduled appointment. I can go and see the actions, whether I want to duplicate the appointment, mark it as done, or cancel. I can choose to email the attendees if I did have more than one. So for example, let's say if I wanted to add Brian and Ivy, I can choose to go and email my attendees. And then from here, of course, I do have a rich editor box that I can then go and customize. I can add any images, I can add any links into this, change the subject, have a CC or BCC copied in. From here, I can also view the attendees' availability. So if I see any conflicts, such as Brian has a meeting scheduled at this time, I can hover over that and then see what exactly his meeting is and for what time. Business does allow you to have options to basically find a different location or a different time to work with. That way you can find a perfect meeting time for everyone involved in this meeting. And then from here, of course, I do have my types. From types, I can choose to pick from candidate interview, conference call, on-site visit. These are ones that I create within the settings. So you can go and customize them to your liking and to what fits your business. Going back up here, we can also see any link to information. So for example, if you did use opportunities within business, you can link any opportunities to appointments as well. And then of course, an auto log, which captures any changes being made to this appointment. Another option that we do have currently is you can go in and set your location. So the different locations can be set within your settings, and I will show you that in just a moment. But as you can see from here, we have Will's office, Trinity's office, computer room 2B, and conference room A1. So we can go and choose our location. We can say whether this is a private meeting or a tentative meeting. And something really good to note is that if it is a private meeting, only the people involved in this meeting will be able to go and view the title of this meeting. They won't be able, anyone else will not be able to click into a meeting. It will just read private on the front of it. Tentative is basically marking this as so that if any other people wanted to schedule appointments, they can coincide. Otherwise, if you just left it blank, then it would basically mark that time as full within your calendar. So from here, meeting time durations, we can go and actually set those up on the type level for your calendars. And if so, we can set it for 1 hour durations or 30 minutes or 90 minutes and so. So as you can see from over here, we can change that. So if we wanted to expand this meeting to 11:45, we can do so, and the durations will go and edit that as well. From here, buffer time is very neat. You can go and add a buffer time before and after any meeting. So if you needed to set up for a room session, you can go and do so and add 15 minutes. Or if you knew that this meeting may go over a bit, we can go and actually put that for another 15 minutes or so. Of course, after this, we can put any descriptions in. So any descriptions could be such as a screen share information or dial-in information or any pertinent information that you may want your attendees to know. So you can go and add those in here as well. Adding a customer or vendor we can do as well. So for example, let's say we wanted to put in Joe's Crab Shack. We can do so, and then we can choose to have the contact for that person as well. So other things that we can do is add people based on job title, by team, and we can also do by the contact or division, and so forth. So from here, you do have those options. And of course, we can edit the recurrence settings if this was something that we were currently doing on a regular basis, such as, for example, recurring every week on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we can mark those off as well. We can also have it when it starts. So we can choose a specific date, as well as the frequency. Or you can choose to have when it ends on. If there's no end date, or if it ends after a certain time, or after a certain number of occurrences, and so forth. So from here, if we choose to save and close, it'll ask us if we want to send an email to the attendees, which we can go and cancel and it won't send. But if we do, we can press OK. And remember, if there are any conflicts, the calendar will go and actually tell you which employee would have, for example, a meeting scheduled at that time. So we did see that Brian had that. But we can change the time. We can include tentative if possible, or we can just save with conflicts. So then once your appointment is saved, you can kind of see within the calendar what this will look like. So for example, this is my calendar right here, and I can see what I have coming up for the next day, what's tentative by the color of yellow, and so forth, and any recurrence that I may have. Going back underneath appointments, we can see more information such as any of the filters, save those searches as well, and I can just edit as I go. Or if I needed to, I can go and just view them straight from the arrow within the calendar. Okay, and the next thing that I do want to bring up is underneath the calendar, we do have it where we can go and view any meeting requests. So when selecting a calendar appointment, we have the option to add it as a new appointment or make it a meeting request. And if so, we can go and see, for example, that this is an example of a meeting request for Pelican Fright. And then, of course, we would go and choose our type, the buffer, and a duration. So right now, this isn't letting us pick a room because this is a meeting request. But if we chose a duration of, let's say, 1 hour, we can still choose our buffer time. But we can also select when to start having them choose a date and time. So we can do it for today, or if we know that we would be booked for today, we can go and choose it for the 12th, for example. This way, it allows us more time to prep. They get to choose a time frame from the 12th and forward. And then from there, we can go and send them this meeting request and get email notified when they go and select a time. Of course, it's the same as the other appointments. We can do our actions to duplicate, mark as done, or remove ourselves from this appointment. We can email the attendees, see any link to, as well as the audit log. And then from here, if we go into the calendar, we do have it set where within business, we can go and integrate with Google and Microsoft. So if you do have one or the other, we can make sure that we have those integrated, if that's something that you would be interested in. And then with that said, we can basically go and see that from here, everything is kind of given to us with full access. I have full access currently, but that may not be what you give to your employees. And with that said, you want to make sure that you have your security set up correctly. So maybe not everybody can go and view everyone's information when it comes to their appointments or their expenses. And that's why it's important to kind of go through your users and securities and make sure that you have this information down packed. So for example, under user roles, we have within the system full access and user. Right now we can see that we have 5 people that do have full access. So if we click on that, we do get a listing of those 5 people on the right hand side. We can have descriptions down for each user role if need be. We can choose which one is the default role, if any. Also from here, when viewing the employees that have this user role, we have the option to take them out of the system with this user role if they don't need it. But we can also view their effective access. Now the user role has, the full access user role has every user role used. But if we were to go into, for example, just basic user, we can see that there's more options that they can go for. So for example, under the user role, we have it where the checkboxes are going to show in gray or blue. When it's gray, that means that not everything in accounting, for example, is checked off. If we were to go and expand on this, we can see that all the checkboxes that are currently white are not given permission for this role. But we can if we wanted to. So whatever would make sense, you can go and choose. But if we scroll down, we can see there's other options here, such as, for example, financial transactions view. This right here is blue. This is because this is the permission that is given for the user role. Now we can do it for others, if it made sense, of course, and mark it blue. Or if it made sense that this basic role would have counting, we can just go and click on that checkbox and it marks everything blue. So you want to make sure that you're giving people the correct types of permissions when they're first setting up the system. This way we can go in and view any effective access for, let's say, example, Jeff Stevenson, and see exactly what he has within accounting or exactly what he has within CRM and so forth. And then from here, if it makes it easier, you can choose to select all or clear all and start from the beginning. Another option that we do have available to users is the fact that this role can assign permissions. So if necessary, you can check this off and say, for example, anyone with the user role of user can go and assign this role, for example, recruiting, and you can have that in there. If not, you can just remove it from here. Or you can simply add all if they're allowed to go and add any other user roles. From here, if we go back into Manage User Access, it's basically around the same page. Otherwise, over here, what we're doing is going through each function, such as accounting. We can then go in and see ACHQ, Manage the Access. And from here, what it's basically letting us do is see which user role currently has this permission. So we can then go and either select from the user role, and then add it from over here, or select from an employee to grant access for this role, and so forth. Another one is to view access. So it's basically letting us know currently which employees in the system have access to the ACHQ role. For example, Brian, myself, Trinity, and Will. And then from here, clicking on here just gives you a basic info of each role, what it means. For example, approving badges from the ACHQ, and so forth. And of course, we can search directly for a function name if need be. And then another portion that is not viewed here is, for example, if I wanted to go and see what permissions I have underneath, for example, employees, I can go in, click on the gear icon, click settings, and I can see currently what roles are accessed on this page. Now, since I do have full access, it'll let me know that I have access to all these roles, which is to view, export, add and edit, and so forth. But if someone did not have access to this role, this is the kind of box that they would receive. So for example, if someone needed to request access on a page, they would receive this access denied page, and then they can go and click on request access. From here, they're able to then go and shoot an email that will go to anybody who is designated as a recipient for these request access emails. And then from there, once that email is clicked upon, they'll go into the screen where they can then choose this employee's access. So based on this, you have options of whether you can grant access to this person and then choose the roles, or you can just assign that person a specific role. You can also add the permission to the role. This way, anyone else that has that same role as her, for example, will also get this new permission. Or you can just create a new role altogether. And the last option being, of course, to deny access if you didn't want that employee to still have access to that screen. So basically, it kind of makes it very nice and cohesive when you can go in, either choose from the gears to see which ones you want access to, or if they go onto a page that they do not have any access to, they can still click on that request access button and then wait for approval from a manager. Okay. Now, from there, of course, that kind of wraps up the user roles and the access that you would have within the system. Of course, you can go and choose within your company settings, for example, which expenses do not have certain roles able to apply for them. So if we were to go into here, for example, expense types, we can see that under fuel, we have it where it's available to all employees. But you can check it off and just say that it's available to only these types of job titles, or it's only available to these types of employees. You can also say whether or not this is going to be an amount that, or a name of a expense that will be from amount or quantity. You can go and choose whether the customer and vendor is required or not, what the markup would be, if any. You can allow the user to select an order with this expense, or to see whether this notification based on employee hierarchy is required. Of course, from the other options, we can see that we can select more than one recipient for submission, select a recipient for approved, one for paid, and one for denied. You can also add custom fields to your expense type. So if you needed more information for a certain expense, such as fuel, you can add it on the custom fields level. And let me see what else we have here. So after you do that, you can then go and save and close. And then if you needed to take off, we can take off from the inactive or the active ones as well. Now, with that said, I guess I just want to ask everyone if they have any questions. We can go and just kind of either say them as a group, anything having to do with expenses or appointments and calendars. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. If it was basically straightforward for you guys, just let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. And then the next session that we will have is next Monday. And thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Everyone have